Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show, where we have now surpassed 150,000 subscribers on our way to the 250,000 mark. Look, one thing you got to understand, nobody knows Donald Trump and that inner circle better than I. Absolutely no one. And as I sit and I listen to some of the nonsense that is coming out of the Trump camp, I feel it's incumbent upon me within which to share the reality with you. So I want to discuss for a brief moment the RFK endorsement of Donald Trump and the nonsense that is, again, been coming out of this camp. So I want to first play for you a clip of Kerry Kennedy discussing her brother's decision within which to endorse Donald Trump. And then you're going to get my reaction to that one.
I think this is really the stakes this November couldn't be higher, which is exactly why my whole family will be fighting so hard to reelect Kamala Harris and Coach Waltz, who've been champions for the values that my family has fought for years. Donald Trump is the polar opposite. He's a threat to the most basic freedoms that are core to who we are as Americans, the right for women to control our bodies, the right to live in communities safe from gun violence, to love who you love. And I think if my dad were alive today, the real Robert Kennedy would have detested almost everything Donald Trump represents. His lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, hatred, racism, fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions. Daddy was the Attorney General of the United States. His rape of E. Jean Carroll, his contempt for the poor and suffering, for ethics, democracy, healing, his cruel sneering at human rights for suffering people in America and around the world. And these are the causes that was loved so passionately by the real Robert Kennedy. So I'm outraged and disgusted by my brother's gaudy and obscene embrace of Donald Trump.
If you could just bottle Jen Psaki's expression as Kerry Kennedy went on this rant, a Michael Cohen style rant about the polar opposite of her family's values and what Robert Kennedy Jr. is now doing by endorsing Donald Trump. The racism, the sexism, the misogyny, the misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, the refusal to believe that a woman should have reproductive control rights over her own body, threats to the freedoms and so on, how Robert Kennedy would have detested Donald Trump and all that he stands for. The expression on Jen Psaki's face tells it all. It just tells it all. Why? Because at the core of Donald Trump, at the core is authoritarianism. It's fascism. And the more he wants to try to push that onto the Democratic platform, the stupider he looks day in and day out. Now, since we're going to talk about stupid, there is nobody stupider than Eric and Lara Trump. There is nobody stupider. And I love now that Lara Trump has been given this chairman role to the RNC. I mean, certainly a far cry from the bakery that she wanted to open up when she was just about, engaged with Eric and so on, and the disdain that Donald had for her. But the ass kissing that she has now figured out how to do, it's boundless. So I want to show you a clip of Lara saying that RFK's support is huge for Trump. So listen to what she's saying, and then you'll hear my reaction.
How important was the RFK Jr. support? Oh, I think it's huge. And I think the Democrats are very upset about that. And that's great. And I actually think he did a great thing when he came out and not just said, I'm endorsing Donald Trump, but here's why, because the Democrats are a threat to our country. I could not associate with a party that has been in my family and is integral to my family and who we are for my entire life. And I thought it was amazing to see him come out. I think you're going to see within the swing states where he has taken himself off the ballot, the percentage bump that I believe it will give Donald Trump, I think is going to be huge. And I think you'll see that in the next round of polling.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, wow is right. I mean, it would be nice if somebody at Fox would push back a little bit. And this is not a tough one to push back on. Look at the Kennedy family values. Look at what they have stood for now decades upon decades. They didn't stand for racism. They didn't stand for sexism, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, transphobia, anti-Semitism. They just did not. And when you listen to Lara Trump sit there and say, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s endorsement of Trump is huge, all right? He could not vote or he could not endorse somebody like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because he claims, he and only he, out of the entire Kennedy clan, he singularly alone cannot endorse the Democrats because they do not ascribe to the Kennedy family values. Well, I think you now have about 100 other Kennedy members that are saying, yeah, I'm not really sure we understand, Robert, what the fuck you're talking about, right? They just don't get it. And it's impossible. And I like how Laura said, oh, this is huge. This is huge. Another one of Don, it is huge. It's huge. It's not huge. And it means absolutely nothing. Every time Robert Kennedy Jr. opens up his mouth, he makes a complete and total fool of himself. He really does. Now, again, there will be a small group, a subset of Republicans that were looking to Robert Kennedy as a potential replacement to Donald. And so with the endorsement, it's the same group of people. It's the same stupids day in and day out that endorsed or that would follow Robert Kennedy that's now going to vote for Donald Trump. It is absolute nonsense. There is no empirical data whatsoever that shows that Robert Kennedy is a spoiler of this election for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. In fact, something that we have seen, the number of volunteers since Kamala Harris has gotten into this race, just Georgia alone, 400,000 volunteers. Volunteers! I mean, how many people are in the whole state altogether? 10 million? 12 million? Look, 400,000? You know what kind of numbers you're talking about there? That's just the volunteers. So, look, again, this is just Lara Trump flapping those lips of hers in order to turn around and to kiss the ass of her father-in-law, because that's just what they do. She is so happy that she's actually recognized now as one of the family. She's willing to go off the rails, do what Donald does, right? Why should she not? Lie to the American people, lie certainly to the Fox viewers, but nobody, including most of the Fox viewers, are listening to a single thing that's coming out of this of her mouth. It's pure and total bullshit. Then again, you want to talk about stupid and full of shit? We got to talk about Jason Miller, this hack, literally. And I knew him from the 2015, 2016 in his windowless office, sitting there like the putz that he is, right? He also, of course, goes on, shocker, Fox News with Kurtz talking about the stock market and how the stock market, I'm not even going to say, I want you to hear the clip and then you're going to get my reaction.
Well, on that point, and you have every right to say that she was part of this administration whose record you criticize, and obviously some of it is unpopular. Don't they also get credit for things that are positive? For example, the record-breaking stock market, the Dow breaking 41,000 on Friday.
Well, that's simply because businesses think that President Trump is going to come back in, and so they're energized. A big part of that RFK Jr. endorsement that we had on Friday, which is huge. When you look at the numbers state by state, some of the states could be upwards of 13,000 to 20,000 votes. Other states, the RFK Jr. endorsement could boost by as much as 40 or even 50,000 votes. When you think about how close the margins are in this campaign, that endorsement alone could put President Trump over the top.
Oh, sure. It could definitely put Trump over because RFK is that spoil factor. The guy is absolutely batshit crazy. If you've ever listened to my Mea Culpa podcast, I spend an hour on. Now, I'm not judging RFK as a person. I'm just talking about his ideology, his beliefs. Oh, it's completely and totally fucked up. But here's the beautiful thing about even people like Jason Miller and why they have no credibility at all. No credit should be given at all to the Biden-Harris administration. None. Why? Well, because it doesn't comport with what they're trying to say, especially on Fox. So Kurtz is actually doing a semi-decent job here when he pushes back and he says, yeah, but look, the stock market is at an all-time high. And what does Jason Miller, this idiot, turn around and say? Well, it's only because business thought that Trump was coming back in. And that's why, really? What would give that some ground? The fact that Kamala Harris is beating Trump now in just about every single poll with every single group, but business leaders, entrepreneurs, they have information that you and I and the rest of America don't have, right? Despite all of whatever the polls are saying, despite all the momentum coming off of the DNC and the announcement of Kamala Harris and so on, because Trump now has the endorsement as well of RFK, who could potentially be the spoiler. Now, all of a sudden, the stock market is going, well, as of this exact moment right now, the stock market is down like 170 points. Is that because of RFK? Is that because of his anti-vax position? Is it because he claims and he had written down that he had cheated on his wife with 37 different women in just the year 2001 before his wife had committed suicide? All of these, the negative factors that are now affecting, the stock market and so on. You see, some of these idiots would have a better track record, or they would have more credibility if they would at least acknowledge, yeah, the stock market is doing well. And the stock market did well under Donald Trump. And, while the stock market's doing well, it's not really something that's a direct result of anything that, say, Joe Biden or Kamala Harris have done. It's more of a function of whatever. At least you could say something there that has some sense of credibility to it, instead of saying it's because business leaders think that Donald Trump is going to be president again. He'll be the 47th president again, and that he's going to be going into the White House. Oh, sure. That's definitely the reason. And again, this level of stupidity, these are the people who are going to be surrounding the Mandarin Mussolini himself, Captain Chaos, right? The Orange Jesus, the narcissistic sociopath. These are the people that are going to be surrounding him. And it's why I will end this episode as I end them all. It is essential that we vote Harris-Walz 2024. These people don't belong anywhere near the White House. They don't belong anywhere near the levers of power. So vote Harris-Walz 2024. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. We're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.